Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Marilyn. Now it's been a really long time since I've done a video on earrings, and so that's what I'm going to work on today. I'm going to make two pair that I designed in Cricut Design Space, and I'll show you that design in a minute. One pair will be made out of this blue and khaki colored cork fabric that I got at Springfield Leather Company, and it'll be trimmed with some denim. Now this denim had to be treated with some fabric stiffener. This is just a DIY fabric stiffener. I have a video about this. I'll link to that in the description below. You do need to prep your denim the day before, so make sure and give that enough time to dry. The second pair of earrings will be made out of this cork fabric that I got at Hobby Lobby. And then I'll trim it out with gold metallic leather that I also got at Springfield Leather Company. Now I'm going to use a lot of things in this video. Rather than stand here and talk about all the things I'm going to use, I'll add a list in the description below. I have two pieces of cork because I'm going to have it back to back. And these are 2 3/4 by about 5 1/2. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and make these double-sided. This is the heat and bond that I'll use, and I cut a sheet down for each pair of earrings. So the heat and bond is basically the same size as what I'll use to cut my earrings out of. Okay, so the heat and bond has two sides. It has a paper backing, and then it has a rough side. And the rough side is just the adhesive that's already exposed. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put my base material pretty side down. Then I'm going to put the adhesive down onto the back side. Then just to protect my easy press, I'll put this Teflon sheet over it. Again, you could use a piece of paper. That would be fine. Now my easy press is on 300. So we're going to start by laying it down just for about 2 or 3 seconds. Just enough to get the heat and bond to adhere. Okay, so that's stuck on. I'll set that one aside, and I'll do my other one. Again, pretty side down. The rough side, or the adhesive side of the heat and bond, against the back side of your material. And once again, just press it for 2, 3, 4 seconds. Now the instructions say to let this cool down. I'm going to move back to the first one I worked with, and it's cool enough. Okay, so you peel the paper backing off, and that exposes the other side of the adhesive. Okay, make sure I'm using the right one here. So now I have the other side of my material. And this time you're supposed to heat it for 8 seconds. Okay, I can tell that was not long enough. So let me go ahead and do it some more. Usually you're using this on fabric, which is much thinner, so 8 seconds is enough for that. But with the thickness of this, and that it is cork, I'll go ahead and do it the whole 15 seconds. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to set that aside and let that cool. You wouldn't want to run this through your Cricut Maker until that adhesive is no longer gooey. So just like on the first one, I'll pull the paper backing off. And this time I'll go ahead and do the full 15 seconds the first time. All right, let's go ahead and check that. And that looks good. You don't really want to pull it apart because you can still pull it apart when it's really hot. But I can tell that's good adhesion. So we'll set those aside. I'll jump onto Cricut Design Space and I'll show you how easy it is to make this design. Now that I'm in Cricut Design Space, we're ready to start our earring design. I'm going to start by clicking on Shapes, and I want to get a circle. Now I want my circle to be 1.75 inches in diameter. So I'm going to click up here on the width. Since the proportions are locked, when I change my width to 1.75, my height will also change to 0.175. Okay. So then I want to duplicate this circle. So I click right here on duplicate, and I want to change that circle to 0.75 inches in diameter. Then just to make it easy for me to see, because it is going to be sitting on top of my gray earring, I'll turn it white. All right, we'll move this down so it's a little more centered. Now I'm going to use this small circle to cut out of the larger circle. And I think it looks good about right there. So I'll select both circles, click up here on a line, and I'm going to center them horizontally. Now that looks like they're already fairly centered, so let's see if they even move. Okay, the white circle moved a little bit. Now we know it's in the center from left to right. Both items are still selected. You can tell because they're both gray over here. So I can slice the white circle out of the gray circle. Okay, so here's what I want to keep. I'll move that over. I'm going to go ahead and keep the white for now, and I can get rid of the extra gray. Okay, so I'm going to change this into an oval that'll be used to go down through the earring, back through the backside, and back up and meet at the top. So this is going to become an oval. But before I do that, because this is so rounded, the fabric going through here might want to buckle. So I'm going to add something to that to make it where I think it'll work a little bit better. I'm going to get another square, unlock the proportions so I can change the width and height independently. And then I'm going to set this right over the top of my open circle. Something like that. That way I'll have a flat piece that goes across for my trim piece to be up against. I'll move my little rectangle up some. So I select those and weld them together. Now I want to change this circle into an oval. So I'll unlock the proportions. I want it to be as wide as this flat part here. So I'm just very quickly, and it doesn't have to be perfect, I'm going to get a square. I'll go ahead and unlock the proportions and change it a different color so I can see it really well. And I'm going to lay it over the flat part and just thin it up until I see the flat part exposed on the right. Okay. Okay, so you see a tiny bit of flat there, a tiny bit of flat there. Right now I'm at 0.397, so I'm going to go with 0.4 for the width of my oval. So I can delete that. That was just to help me decide my width. Proportions are unlocked. You can tell it here, and you can tell it here. So I'm going to make it a width of 0.4, and then a height of 1.5. Okay, so here's my earring design. I need to cut 4 of these out of the cork fabric. So I'll go ahead and duplicate that 3 more times. And I can cut them all at the same time, so I can leave them the same color. If I wanted to cut them on 2 different mats, maybe I needed to use different settings for each, I would need to change 2 of these a different color. Now I need to duplicate this. I'm going to go ahead and do it twice. The white will be for one of my trim pieces. And then I'll go ahead and change this kind of a gold color. That'll mimic my leather color. And then I can duplicate it so that I'll have two of those. So this will be my gold leather. This will be my denim. That's going to require a different setting than my gold leather, so it needs to be a different color. And then I'm ready to go ahead and send this to the maker. So I'll click on Make It. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the cork fabrics. So I'll click on that mat. I do want to manipulate where these are. So on one of my cork fabrics, I'll start 2 inches down and 2 inches over. And I'll just place those side by side. And then the other pair, I'll go 2 inches from the bottom and also 2 inches from the left side. So now I know where to place my material on my mat. I'll go ahead and click Continue. Now for my material, I want to look for the word denim. I want to trick the maker into using my rotary blade. And so I'm going to use this heavy fabrics like denim. And then I'll click Done. Then I want to add more pressure. So then it instructs me to go ahead and load my rotary blade and load my mat. So I'll go ahead and change the camera view so we can do that. Okay, unfortunately I failed to hit record before I cut my circles. So I am going to redo this piece because I have more of this fabric, and I'll show you the other pair. So here's the blue pair. They cut out really nicely. Now there's one fray right there, or one spare piece there that needs to be trimmed off, and then there's a tiny bit down there that needs to be trimmed off. So I'll probably use an Exacto knife for that. So I'm going to recut this pair. Once again, I placed my design 2 inches down, 2 inches over. And because this is an old mat, I'm going to go ahead and give some extra insurance by putting this Scotch tape down. Some people use painter's tape. I just happen to like this super hold Scotch tape. Now this is quite wide, so there will be some waste. I'll go ahead and keep the excess and I'll use it for a different project. Okay, so I have my rotary blade already in the clamp, and then it's prompting me to load my mat. Now I could go ahead and unload this, but before I do, I want to check and see if it looks like the cut is good. Okay, so the first time I did it, it cut through just using that more pressure. This time it didn't get quite all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the C button again so it'll do another cut. All right, that looks much better, so I'll go ahead and unload my mat. Now sometimes when you're cutting out of this fabric, these metal pieces don't always cut perfectly. So I have my Exacto knife over here just in case I need to slice through anything. So I have that little excess piece just like I did in the blue pair. So I'll slice that off. Everything else looks really good though. Now the next thing I'm going to cut is the denim. And I'm going to use that same setting so that I can use the rotary blade, but this time I'll just use default pressure. Okay, I can tell that's just stuck in one place down here, maybe one up here. That'll be easy to cut loose. So we'll go ahead and unload this. Okay, so the way these will work are just like that. So then we'll cut our last layer out of the gold, and I'm going to put it on the mat with the pretty side down. Okay, I ended up changing my settings for this to a metallic leather, and it prompted me to use my deep point blade. I went ahead and just used the default pressure, so we'll see if that's enough. Okay, so it cut each earring 4 times, and that looks like it cut beautifully. Perfect. Okay, so I can go ahead and unload my mat. And then you can see what a nice job it did on this leather. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and put these together. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and place my trim piece through the hoop. And then put them where they're even at the top. And then I'm going to use this punch tool that I got at Harbor Freight to make my holes. Now it's on the smallest setting. So I want to make sure those are lined up exactly where I want them. And then very gently I'll place my tool down on my fabric. And then before I actually punch it through, I need to pull it really close to my face and make sure it's where I want it. Okay, I think that looks good, so I'll go ahead and press. And it made a perfect hole through both layers. Now the next step that I would do after I punched all these is I'd have my toothpick, and I'm going to put my toothpick in there so that when I glue these together, the toothpick keeps the glue from really going in and filling in the hole. So my E6000 is right here. Okay, my E6000 was dried up. So I want to show you, I got this little 4-pack. There's 3 left at Walmart. I can't remember how much they were, but I like the fact that they're in small tubes so that if they do dry up, you don't waste an entire large tube. So you open it, and then there's this little pokey tool on the end of that. You just puncture the top of your E6000, and it's starting to ooze out just a little bit. Now I don't want very much of this, just a tiny bit. And that's probably more than I needed. Now before I squeeze the 2 sides together, I'll go ahead and put my toothpick through. Then I'll just press them together, and I'll hold it there for about 30 seconds. Okay, let's see if our earrings are ready. I went ahead and just left them here overnight because it was getting late last night when I was doing the video. Those look great. Okay, so it looks like everything is held together just fine, so we can go ahead and add our hardware. I have some sterling silver fish hooks I'm going to put on these, and I got these off of Amazon. I'll go ahead and link to these in the description below. And then I just have a couple of little pairs of needle nose pliers. These aren't really the right type. These are round for wire wrapping, but I can't find my other pair, so I'll use them for now. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to use a jump ring on these. I didn't get my holes far enough up for this to work without a jump ring, so I'll go ahead and grab those. Okay, so I have some 6mm jump rings. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll open this up. The opening for the jump ring is right here at the top. I might be able to do it with my thumb. Yeah, I can just twist these with my hand. I don't need the second pair. So I'll just put that through the hole. And then, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put my fish hook on. Now, to get these to hang right, I'm going to have to twist the jump ring. Otherwise, they're going to hang sideways. Okay, like I said, those are rounded. They just don't do real well, so I'll twist that back with my hand. And then if I need to push it together a little bit, I can do that with this. Okay, so here's what I was saying. With one jump ring, eventually when it stops, it's going to want to hang like that. And I want it to hang like this. So instead of adding 2 jump rings, because they really move around too much in my opinion with 2 jump rings, I take the loop on the fish hook and I just turn it 45 degrees. Or is that 90 degrees? I don't know. You turn it a quarter of a turn and that makes it hang correctly. All right, there's one of each earring. Thanks so much for sticking it out till the end. Until the next video. Bye-bye.